Most good men will spend years chasing the wrong woman and never once realize the mistake that cost them years of pain was there from the very first date. You see, most people will tell you to go all in early on. You show her you're serious and prove your value through effort to stand out from other men. It's what every rom-com, dating coach, and well-meaning friend will actually tell you. But as counterintuitive as it sounds, the less effort you put in early on, the easier your dating life becomes and the higher your chances of finding the right woman. So in this video, I'm going to show you how to properly filter out women, the reinforcement framework that makes women value and invest in your relationship, and the exact strategy for maintaining novelty and excitement with women so they don't get bored. And it all starts with the same filtering mistake, investing heavily upfront in effort, attention, and resources, only to discover much later that she was never actually attracted to you as a person. And by the time most men figure this out, they're already emotionally and practically committed to the wrong woman. And I know this very well because I've been there many times before. So there is a concept in game theory called signaling, which is very important to understand here. A woman attracted to your resources can mimic the exact same signals of a woman who is genuinely attracted to you, making it impossible for you to distinguish the two from each other and making it 10 times more likely that you will settle for a fraud and not the actual thing. When you are deliberately putting in lots of effort, you are incentivizing this kind of behavior from the wrong woman while making it harder for yourself to actually filter out the good woman because you don't know these women well enough to make a good judgment. They mimic the good girl persona because they obviously want to extract resources from you, but want to do so indirectly to avoid rejection, criticism, or confrontation at all costs. But this, you see, is only one part of the equation. The other part has to do with encouraging positive behavior from people from the get go. And Robert Cialdini's research on social proof and reciprocity also tells us that people systematically undervalue what is freely given and overvalue what must be earned. When something is handed to you without effort, you unconsciously assign it a lower value. It's just how we're wired. This is not my theory. But when you have to work for something and there's uncertainty there, a waiting period, and some resistance, your brain interprets that friction as a signal of worth. It's the exact same reason why restaurants with a waitlist feel more desirable than empty ones serving the same food. The scarcity isn't proof of quality, but it actually reads that way for most people. So when you invest heavily in a woman up front, you don't only risk being with someone who isn't that into you. You also cheapen your value and leave no room for tension and excitement to build up. In some sense, this is like telling a candidate they've got the job before the interview even starts, without even knowing their background, who they are, and whether they actually wanted to work there or just wanted a paycheck. So your role is to filter for genuine attraction first, while stripping away all fancy dinner dates and romantic getaways. The idea of simplicity in dating is stupidly effective because it quickly filters out all the wrong prospects. And what this means for you is less time wasted on people who are not even worth your time. Without solving this filtering bottleneck first, the other strategies are irrelevant because you're building on the wrong foundation. And once you do have a pool of women who might have high interest in you, you must transition into building proper reinforcement from the very beginning. As Dr. Phil McGraw would say, you must teach people how to treat you. In competitive bidding, for example, players who increase their investment incrementally based on the other party matching them consistently outperform those who go all in early. That's because the player who immediately front loads loses a lot of leverage. The one who scales investment in response to real commitment keeps the dynamic balanced and sustainable. Think of a chef at a high end restaurant, for example, who has a table of regulars come in every week. Early on, he probably served them the normal menu, same as everyone else, but over time, he notices they always return an empty plate, ask thoughtful questions about the food, and tip generously, recommending the place to some of their friends too. Gradually, of course, he starts doing more for them. A complimentary dish here, a custom pairing there, and eventually an off menu experience built entirely for their preferences. But that investment escalates because the behavior earned it over time. Imagine he did all that for a table of complaining customers who left their food untouched and left a 1-star review. He would burn out inside a month. The chef's generosity was a response to proof of appreciation. And dating women is very similar because better treatment should be a reward for better behavior. It shouldn't be a default expectation. The most effective strategy to use in the early stages of dating is what is called tit for tat, simply matching the woman's level of investment day by day rather than putting down all your chips at once. This strategy consistently outperforms all others because it never lets women take advantage of your openness and generosity while still rewarding genuine effort. And among other reasons, this approach works because it prevents entitlement and encourages reciprocity, which you should always create space for in any relationship. And actually, I would argue that any woman highly interested in being with you will want to please you and win you over regardless. But it's a hell of a lot easier for her to do so if you give her the opportunity. And remember, the more a woman invests into a relationship, the more she will value it because she's pouring her time, effort, and resources, and the less likely she will be to take it for granted. To make this concrete, here's exactly how this looks in practice. Firstly, match her investment level day by day. Don't deliberately give her more than she's currently giving. Secondly, escalate your effort only in direct response to good treatment, not just potential. Thirdly, create space for her to pursue you and reciprocate effort. Don't fill every gap for her. Fourth, never reward bad behavior with more investment. This happens to set you up perfectly for the third phase, and it's all about preventing boredom and maintaining a level of excitement and obscurity. Think of a song you were obsessed with the first time you heard it. I know mine very well because when I really like a song, I can't stop myself from listening to it for weeks until it basically repulses me. So the first few times you hear it, it's like candy to your ears and it triggers feelings that are just hard to put into words. After the 100 or 200 listen, though, something starts to change, even though the song is exactly the same. Your nervous system is totally adapted to it. The element of surprise wore off and the emotional curve just flattened out. Now, whenever you hear it, it's just like background noise. In relationships, there are actually many perils. Familiarity itself isn't the enemy, but over familiarity certainly is, because in reality, men who maintain excitement and novelty are not doing dramatically different things. They're simply deliberate enough to never let the woman feel like she has seen the whole show. Novelty and excitement don't only come from new places, like traveling to a new country or spontaneously going to a hiking trip. It is also triggered by how you carry yourself and how you transmit information and how much of it. In simple words, how predictable you are within your relationship. So, in repeated games, for example, players who become fully predictable lose all their negotiating power. Once your opponent has mapped your every move, they don't need to remain engaged because they already know the outcome before the game even starts. But a player who introduces occasional unpredictability, for example, forces the other side to stay alert, stay invested, and keep showing up to the table. The moment you become entirely readable, the game is effectively over because there's nothing left for her to figure out. From a neuroscience perspective, research on dopamine also shows that the brain's reward system responds more strongly to unpredictable rewards than predictable ones. So, a reward that comes sometimes produces more dopamine than one that comes every single time. So, in simple terms, unpredictability is not merely a game. It's basically like a long term strategy backed by neuroscience to sustain a healthy reward system in the woman you are dating. And as Jacques Lacan said, desire is sustained by what remains unknown. So here are 4 practical steps that give you a good starting point. Firstly, maintain information asymmetry. Don't narrate your life in real time. You don't need to share every thought, feeling, plan, or opinion as it happens. Let there be chapters of your life she hasn't read yet. Secondly, preserve independent depth. Keep developing interests, skills, and pursuits that exist entirely outside of the relationship. Because a man who is always fully present and always fully available has nothing new to bring back. Time away from her should be building something worth returning to. Thirdly, vary your emotional temperature. Don't be equally warm, equally engaged, and equally available every single day. Natural fluctuation, not manufactured games, signal that your attention is a response to something and not a permanent fixture she can take for granted. Fourth, introduce deliberate unpredictability. Occasionally do something she didn't see coming, a different side of your personality, an unexpected decision, a new direction. And this is not only for shock value, but to remind her that she hasn't reached the edges of who you are. Let tension breathe. Not every silence needs to be filled. Not every distance needs to be closed immediately. Resistance and space are not signs of a failing relationship. They are what actually keep desire intact in the long haul. And if you apply even half of what I just showed you, your relationships will look completely different within a matter of weeks. And you will have the kind of woman who can value your relationship as much as you do without having to jump hoops to make things work. You now know how to filter, reinforce, and maintain attraction. But there's one thing that holds all of it together, and most men never get it right. So watch this video next to find out how to make a woman genuinely respect you. Thank you for listening, my friends, and I'll see you soon. Take care.